Alright, this is the second video. Education on audio systems for high school band programs, marching band, and indoor percussion. So this video is on the front ensemble audio and the wired microphones. So let's go ahead and get started. Front ensemble audio. So front ensemble audio has multiple aspects to it. We'll start with marimba microphones. So marimbas are typically mic'd with two microphones, one low end and one high end. If able, one should stagger the placement so that the microphones are between each other's dead spots. Next we have the vibraphone microphones. The vibraphone typically has one microphone. Also, if able, one should stagger the placement between multiple vibraphone microphones. So moving on to synthesizers. There are multiple different ways to get input from synthesizers. Most common way though is to have a MIDI controller send signal to a software on a laptop. From there, the output signal from the software goes to a digital audio interface in which it outputs the signal to its destination. So for example, you would have a MIDI controller, which most of the time is a keyboard in our activity, to a laptop, to a audio interface, to a mixer. However, if you have, for example, a synthesizer, you can send that to a mixer straight to there. And when I say synthesizer, I mean an actual synthesizer. Guitars. This includes electric guitar and bass guitar. There are multiple ways as well to get the signal to its destination. The most common way though is to send the signal from the guitar to a DI box, which then sends it to its final destination. DI box essentially turns low Z to high Z. So essentially what it is really 1/4 inch to XLR cable. It's a 1/4 inch to XLR. It's the safest way to make that exchange. Moving on to wired microphones. There are 3 types of wired microphones: dynamic, condensers, and ribbons. Dynamic microphones don't require phantom power. They're one of the more common microphones found. Condensers require phantom power. You may see them on an audio interface or mixer board with a 48V or an additional other symbol. Ribbon microphones use ribbons to essentially capture the sound. And if you send phantom power to them, they will burn up. Hence why you should always check your microphone's manual to figure out how to make it work. Condensers are the most sensitive of the microphones. I'm using a condenser right now and I have it the gain turned down extremely low, and it's picking up a lot of signal. So now we'll be talking about microphone polar patterns. Microphone polar patterns are how a microphone picks up sound. So I'll go over to this. So for example, here are an example of multi-microphone polar patterns. So we have omnidirectional, bidirectional, cardioid. Now, bidirectional can also be called figure 8. But essentially, you have omni, which going from here, this is what it would look like on a chart. This is kind of what it would look like if you had it in a 3D space. Bidirectional or figure 8 is what this would look like. Cardioid, so here, supercardioid, hypercardioid, and then of course shotgun. Next, we're going to talk about microphone frequency response. Microphone frequency response. So microphone frequency response shows what frequency the mic is able to pick up. Each mic, like I said in the last video, each mic is different and unique and picks up stuff differently. So for example, Down on the left, we have a mic that can pick up basically everything. This mic would probably be really good on most of everything. And then you have the SM57 up in the top right. And you'll notice it's probably really good for picking up stuff within, 100 to probably 5,000 or so. However, it would also probably still be really good up to 10,000. But anything above that, it's probably not so good, or anything below that. So an example of using this is a SM57 probably would not be a good idea to use for really low sounds. Possibly really low bass guitar sounds. And possibly tuba. But tuba, I know tuba does get really low. I don't think it gets that low. Enough that it would be a big difference. So bass guitar probably would get lower than tuba. And then we can look on the bottom. There's another one. Kind of similar to the one right next to it. Minus it varies a little more. So it's essentially how good it is at picking up certain frequencies. So this one, an SM57, you probably wouldn't want to use. SM57s are really good for their price. However, you probably wouldn't want to use it on like a Barry sax, but you could probably still use it on a Barry sax and be fine. Microphone built-in settings. So this is a picture of an AT2035, which I in fact am using the 2020 to record this video. So it doesn't have these settings, but I work with a bunch of groups that use these specific ones. So some microphones have built-in settings. So we have pad that allows for recording higher volume sources without causing clipping. So essentially it's how sensitive it is. Low cut, and essentially cuts out more of the low frequencies. High cut, sometimes they may have that. It would cut out the high frequencies. Sometimes you'll hear low cut associated with high pass, or high cut with low pass. That's an example that you should also know. Polar pattern. Sometimes mics have the ability to switch polar pattern. And if you remember, the polar pattern is this. So with that being said, this is the end of this video and presentation. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, email them to me at buellaudio@gmail.com. Thank you.